Okay, if you cast your mind back to the last tutorial on this topic, I mentioned that I particularly wanted to use this mesh for the bunny because it was a lower resolution mesh, and you can see it shows up the mesh smoothing issue that Bryce has, and this issue interferes with curvature filtering. And low resolution meshes tend to show this faceted appearance to the material response when using curvature filtering, and the solution is to use a higher resolution mesh. Now we could take this bunny, export it into Wings 3D and smooth it and bring it back in to make the mesh higher resolution, but it might alter the shape of the bunny if it had any sharp corners, and it wouldn't be using Bryce. So I'm going to try and do it using Bryce and terrains, because a terrain, if I can create a height map from this bunny, will give me the option of increasing the resolution. Drawback is I can't get this out in 16-bit grayscale, and I need that to get the resolution for the height maps, which read in 16-bit grayscale, not 8-bit. So there's an additional problem to overcome there, but first let's get the height map. Now height maps are white where they're high and black where they're low, so I need this background to be fully black. That's easy to achieve. I've just got the IBL turn image-based lighting HDRI image set up there to highlight the reflections in the metal material, but I've turned the backdrop off now, so it'll be fully black in the background. That's stage one. Bunny's more of a problem, so I'm going to modify the material of the bunny. I'm going to reset it to default grey, and I'm going to use the ambient channel to light this up, so it's ambient, and I'm going to control it with this first channel here. Hold the shift key down. I'm going to bring in from one of the basic textures this basic altitude. Now we need this to be outputting the alpha channel to control the ambient, so I'll go into here and give it alpha, and there we go, we've got white to black there. And then if we set it to our actual selection, we can see we've managed to light up the bunny's ears. You can try object front, which might seem like the obvious choice, but that also is there's a little bit of a conflict between the mapping modes and the ambient, not the ambient channel. I was just thinking I should increase the global ambient to white. White, thank you. Right, there's a bit of a conflict between the altitude mapping and the mapping modes in Bryce, and it's not always consistent in the way it behaves. I've tested this out, and the solution seems to be, bearing in mind as things were set up in the previous tutorial, the camera's linked to the bunny and the cube's linked to the camera, so I need to move the bunny so that it's in a different orientation to work with the altitude filtering. So if I set this, well, first of all, to 0 origin and 0 rotations. So I'm looking from the side now. If I hold the shift key down, I can step it and rotate the camera around so it's looking down on the bunny, which is, well, it's not changed the situation yet because we need a different mapping mode to get this to work. So if I switch it to object top now, I've reorientated the bunny, we can get our height map out. So that's going to be our terrain height map that we're going to use the material on and gather the curvature response. So I'll just save this as height map. So call that. Right, I'm going to need a new fresh instance of Bryce running to get this height map on the terrain set up. It'll just take a second to load. I don't need the ground plane, and I'm going to turn the atmosphere, and I'm going to disable the sunlight. I'm going to turn the atmosphere off, so I've got nothing else going on in this scene. And I'm going to create my terrain. Holding the control key down would give me a grey terrain, but I'm going to put my own material on it anyway. So it's selected the default. No, it's picked. I hold the wrong key down and held the shift key down. Never mind. I'll take the metals that I used before. That's going to be my my curvature response there. I've just applied that for now, and the only thing I'm going to get out of that is the alpha channel. Right, I need this terrain to copy and paste it, and I convert that into a cube, which I'm going to lift up in the air and lift above this terrain, which is at the origin. So if I set the camera now to 0 origin and rotate it in the x-axis so it's facing down and lift it up so it's inside this cube, then this will allow me, if I get things set up right, to position this so I can capture the front face of this terrain without any adjustments. What I need to do is get the field of view to coincide with that corner, and then I'll be seeing straight down onto the terrain, because I'm going to, as in the previous two tutorials, now use the material here, reset it default grey, and give me transparency and refraction 0. will make it point down at the terrain. So if I switch to the camera view now and change the document setup so we're at 1:1 to match the terrain, I'm not making any careful choices about the document setup size, but if you were to doing this to capture a procedural material, then capturing them at a fairly high resolution would be recommended. Okay, we're not seeing anything yet because I've not set the material up and I've turned all the sun off. So if I go into the terrain here, modify the material, I'm just going to use ambient channels. None of these other channels are necessary, so I'll just set this to 0 and there, and this is my curvature filtering one, and that's going to control ambient. So I'll just pop a blob in ambient there, put these other blobs down, turn ambient response up, get rid of diffuse, and I need that to be fully white. Sometimes when I press Camtasia Studio it keeps the menus here, so I've got to bear in mind it can click that button there which turns it onto a picture, but I haven't done it this time, so that's good. So now I've got my terrain and it's just giving me ambient through the curvature, which will mean when we come back to our material we can swap our picture back into here and use it to control these two channels in the same way, all being well. So it's quite a tricky operation this. So there's my cube, and that doesn't look right because my field of view is not right because it was modified by changing the document setup. So get my field of view back in there, and hopefully now I'll get the full screen render. It's not quite reaching the edge at the moment, so if I'll just scale the cube up a little bit. That's the size of my terrain. No, I needed to move it up a bit probably. There we go. And it brought things. That's it. Okay, right, let's say that's close enough, but you should really carefully set this up so it touches the sides without leaving a line round it. As in the previous tutorials, you'll realise what problems that causes. And the other thing is because I'm driving ambient, I need the global ambient to be fully white. So now I'll have my full range, and that is the curvature response on that material of this particular terrain. This terrain's height map, however, we're going to use the picture that I generated before. Bearing in mind, as I was saying, this is only 8-bit, which means it'll be quite stepped. So here's our problem then, that this is an 8-bit and a 16-bit interpretation. So as things stand, things are going to be a bit, you can see there's the steps because it's only moving up 8 bits at a time, and then the transition's in 16 bits. And the other bit is we don't need that outside. So if I edit this, and there's a thing here that allows you to make the select which bits go transparent, I'll just make sure the background just goes transparent without losing any of the ear if possible. And then I'll lower the resolution of the terrain for now so I can smooth it quickly. So I'll give it, I don't know, half a dozen smooths, and then I'll increase the resolution and smooth it, and then I increase the resolution again and smooth it, and then if I check out of this, that should have modified the response. Except I've topped out on this front face. Because of the smoothing, it's lifted it too high. So I've got to have to process this again, but we're aware that I've gone too fully white here. It's created a flat surface. So if I get my picture and my bunny, there we go. And then as long as it's not, it's a bit flattened there. So I'm going to have to go back to my height map. I've got a problem here, and I'm going to modify the material, and here I'm going to have to move the grey up a bit. If I reset it, it's probably a bit too far, so I'll try that. Hopefully it won't, it's not going to very close to white there, so try it again and get a bit closer. As you can see, it's a bit of a fiddly process, but it should work. Alright, so I've redone my height map now, and hopefully I'm not burned out in these areas. I'll just save that because I'd already given it a file name. I can now load that picture in once that's saved. There's our height map, and now there's more detail on this part of the model, and if I need more headroom for smoothing, I can use this raise and lower to push that down a bit. So I'll smooth that as I did before a couple of times. Then I've done that at high resolution. That might not have worked. We'll see. I think that's going to be too stepped. Yes, it is. So I'll have to edit it, and I'll select low resolution, load the picture. There we go. Then smooth it. It smooths a lot faster when you do that. Medium, smooth, smooth. Oh, I've got a flat section again. Right, lower resolution, load the picture. I think you're getting the impression here this is a really tedious process, but I'm going to lower that down so it doesn't burn out, and then smooth it a couple of times. That lifts it up. Higher resolution, smooth. Higher resolution, smooth. Check out of there. Let's have a look at the response now. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. You can see, I hope, that that's quite a different response from what we had before, and it's getting close. This gridded effect is due to the way it samples when you increase the resolution, so we'll smooth it a couple more times and see if that goes away, and this should give us a curvature response map that's not faceted, or at least only as faceted as the Heightmap is, and provided that you've got that down to a resolution that's suitable for the size of your model as it appears in your scene, then it's not going to be a problem. So I'll just let this render out. Admittedly that's taken longer than I'd hoped, but I think it's important that you see that it's not that straightforward. So I feel sometimes that perhaps I make things look too easy, and really they're not. Okay, right, file, save as, bunny curve response, I can't spell. Right, and if you remember in the last video, we needed to flip this round because the bunny came in backwards, so image, mirror, file, save copy as, save, and then we'll go back to our image where we had the capturing. So here we go, this faceted problem. Now, as if by magic, hopefully, we got our material channel here, switch it to a picture and load in the Heightmap that's been flipped, and remember to do object front, and this channel now will start selecting between the two, but I need the other channel here to control the reflection by the looks of it, because it's the transition's too strong for the reflection. And I can't remember what the other channel, it was a curvature channel, wasn't it? So I'll have to save that component. I suppose this will work because I can show you how that works too. So go back to my metal, and I'll just hold shift down, and that'll bring my texture library up, and I'm just going to pop this somewhere where there's a gap. If there's a gap here, squares. So I'll add that in there, so there's my curvature response, because that's also controlling reflection, but the picture doesn't look like it's going to work for that, but it will work for the other things. So I can now bring in all these other things and just use that to switch between these two channels on these ones. So if I do this, and then bring that in for that channel as well. It's alright, Camtasia wouldn't let me show you the menus there. I just need to know that the scale of these two components is the same. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's a bit quirky like that. The mapping mode's the same. And then I should be able to swap this one for a picture as I did before. So bring my picture in and make sure it's object front. Right, now, is that going to be right? Bump height was that. Let's see what we got now. I know why we're missing something here. This needs to be in the alpha channel to do the control. So we can pick picture and copy, paste, delete. Okay. Now I've got the choice now whether, you see, the reflection is going to be a bit too strong, as I was saying, because of the going fully white, but it'd probably be okay for the material transitions. So I've got reflection controlled with the original curvature, which probably won't show up, but the material transitions, which showed up very badly, and the transition for the bump height between the material, are now under the control of this image that's been generated from a map of the surface. So let's see if that looks any better. The facetization in the reflections is showing up a bit there, but the transition in the material is a lot smoother. If we remind ourselves what that looked like before, I'll just get the right image up there. Facet's quite visible, Facet's not so visible. There's been a bit of change in the distribution of the pattern, but it's a procedural pattern, so it's difficult to get it exactly right when we've moved it out of its position when it was mapped world space. Let's see what we can do about the reflections. If I put that under the control of the reflections, I might need to, it's on alpha scaling now, so I might need to drop the reflection value down a bit. Let's see how that looks. It might look quite different is my problem. Oh yes, that looks quite different. So I'd stopped myself at this point because I realised I'd made a mistake when I was reviewing the video, and the mistake I'd made was I checked the wrong bit for the alpha channel response. So if I go back into the material now and do what I should have done in the first place, which was check this channel and set alpha scaling, because that was checked for this channel, which is the channel I checked in error. So if I do that, and then I shouldn't even need this one, it should all work with this one now. So the two things I went wrong with: one, I forgot to initially transfer this from the diffuse channel to the alpha channel for the picture, and two, I didn't check the alpha scaling down here so that it had the correct response. So now I've put in those things right and done away with this curvature filter altogether, and hopefully that'll give me the correct material response, but without the faceted nature of the original. So bumbling through, we've finally got there. So I just need this to render out, save this, and then I can apply it to my original scene with the bunyan that we tested it last time. We could do a comparison between the two effects. So this just renders out. Now, have I got that file handy? I don't know. I'll load it into this empty slot here. That one there. I don't think that. I think that's the previous one. You can see the faceted image there. So we just save this one now. That'll save my image that is now going to be mapped on this one. It'll just take a few seconds to sort that out, and then I'll go into the materials for this, go in here. It's going to need to be flipped. I've forgotten the flipping again. Well, the mirroring I should say, because flipping in PaintShop Pro is the other way around. So we'll load this one in, image, mirror, file, save copy as, yes, overwrite that one, which was the one I did wrong, go back to my file here, find the new mirrored map with the new improved one, I hope. Let's see, have I managed to do this right? Yes. So there you go. Albeit done very clumsily, I've finally got to the stage of being able to correct for the curvature filtering issue in Bryce and produce a nice smooth curvature response for this model. So that's the two stages of mapping the procedural texture onto the just for purely for the images, and the other one to overcome the problem with the curvature filtering on the mesh. Of course, you could just export the curvature filtering and smooth it in a paint package, which would be easier, I suppose, but this is the more Brycey way of doing it, and you've got more control because you can do all kinds of filtering on the Heightmap. So the choice is yours, really. Likewise with the cropping around the outside to get it exactly to be a good fit. You can set that up very painstakingly in Bryce, or you can just crop it in a paint package. Choice is yours. Right, that's the end of the tutorial then. I hope that wasn't too tedious for you, and you'll have a go with these rather tricky procedures. But the aim is, in the end, to try and get some image maps out of Bryce and into Daz Studio. It's, as things stand, it's very difficult to get any of your procedural textures out of Bryce, and it's nice to be able to use these textures in other things, for example, because it's a very powerful way of producing textures, very flexible, but entirely limited to Bryce at the moment, unless you can get them out with the models and mapping issues and that kind of thing. But since the Daz Studio bridge isn't very helpful in that respect, then we're going to have to find ways of working around it. So anyway, that's for the future.